until we're absolutely done and we want to stage this. Because when you bring in a light to the universe, the whole room is going to get dark and you're not going to be able to see your model. So I would not use any lights for the time being right now. So to make a bool, right, it's under the array right here. And you have to have a negative and a positive, and it can only be two objects. You can't have more than one. So I'm going to drop the negative, which is the cylinder, into the bool first. That's my window here. And then my cube goes into the bool like so. Now I'm going to look at this, and you'll be able to see now I have a nice cutout of this shape. And it's live, which basically means I can go to the cylinder at any time, and I can move that object around, right? And you can see I have three walls here, so it's basically only affecting this one right here. But it's got to go through. If it doesn't go all the way through, then you have a cutout, which is not a bad thing either. You can have little niches in your walls if you want to have that. But I'm going to cut all the way through with this, so I'm just going to push all the way through. But I want you to see the texture is that the inside texture is gray, and that's because of the bool. The cutout is the same texture as the object that it started with. So if I want this to be the same, I've got to take this tag and bring this here. Do you remember what I do? Anybody at all? Okay. So the command tag, when you click on a tag, you can drag it into another layer, and it will put that same tag in there. And you don't have to worry about making the same size of your tags for when you're working. So again, just as a quick little reminder, let's go to the standard room really fast. And here's my one tag. I'm going to remove all of these bools, or I'll remove all these tags for the moment. So when I drag this on here, right, and I put it on there, the first thing I need to make sure I do is I go to my UVW mapping and change it to cubic. And as I do that, you'll see that the stones get really, really small. So I'm going to change the length of them here. So I want nice big stones going this way, and I want nice big stones going that way. But if I drag the same tag or the same object onto another thing, you're going to see I have to do that all over again, and I'm not going to get the same measurements. Once you've created a tag that works for you, hold your command key, drag this into the other objects, and it will go ahead and it will put the same tag and size. So it's a big time saver for you. Right, so I'm going to make a little window now. The first thing I want to do is, obviously I've got to look online for a window. I found a really cool picture of a stained glass window I think is going to work really nice in this. So I'm just taking a quick peek at this to make sure that it's going to, be okay. There's lots of great colors in there. I tried to match the arch as best as I could. I may not be able to get it perfect, but we'll see. And again, you don't have to use stained glass with this. You can use any kind of window panes you want. I'm going to bring in a plane. We haven't used that yet. A plane is basically just a flat object. And before I do anything else, I want to make sure that I'm going to line up my texture properly, because I might put my texture on here and I might be going in the opposite direction. I'm going to make a new texture. I'm going to go to color, and I want to make sure, first of all, that my color is all the way up to white. And I'm going to go to texture here, and I'm going to load in my own image. So now you don't have to go to the content browser. You can bring in anything from the outside. If you have a texture that you want to use from the outside world, you can do that. So when you browse and bring in the picture that you want, and I'm going to go to my desktop because I've got a better vision of that. So let me go here really fast. And here is my stained glass window. Say yes. Okay. Now it's going to have a reflectance on it. I'm going to turn that off for the time being. And I'm going to go ahead and just drag this on here just so I can kind of see it. And I can see that the way that this was brought in is going to work nicely for me. So I can rotate this 90 degrees. Okay. I'm not going to worry about the size of it just yet. I'm going to push it up, push it back into space. There we go. And move it up so that it fits into that space really nicely. Again, I'm not going to try to squeeze everything in there. I can if I want to. It may feel a little squashed, so I just kind of want to do it until it kind of feels organic and pretty natural. And that looks pretty nice. Maybe bring this down just a little bit. And that looks pretty cool. Okay. Now, if I go to render this right now, everything's going to render fine, right? However, if I bring in a light to that space, and I bring it out here, and maybe bring it over, and maybe bring it over to here, and I go to render it, I'm not going to see my window too well. So the next thing you've got to do in order to illuminate your window is you want to go to Luminance. You turn on Luminance, the whole thing is going to go white, right? And if I rendered this now, right, you'll see that no matter what happens in this dark world, this is going to be illuminated bright white. So what you want to do is turn on Luminance, but you also want to go to the texture and load that image in again. So you're going to go and load that image in again. And what's going to happen is it's going to blend that luminance together so that no matter what your light source is in that space, your window is going to be brightly lit. Right? That's what the luminance will do. And so you can copy and paste this and do this many different things to this as you want. A reminder again that if you want a different color on your stone, eventually when you go to your lights, you can go to your light and you can change the color of the light. So let's say I wanted a stone that was a little cooler blue. Then I could go to my blue color here, just add a little tiny bit. You don't need a lot. And it automatically will change the color of your scene. Right? So your lights are really going to change the color of your textures as you're working. So it's another technique to think about and to use is using a plane and then using that plane for glass. If you want to just do plain glass instead, like you want to actually have glass texture, you can go to the glass, go to your content browser, go to your presets, go to visualizer, materials, and go to glass. And in your glass, there's all sorts of different types of glass. You might want to use frosted glass instead. And then again, that's not really going to show up very, very well unless you end up having a light in that background space. So as soon as you have a light that's kind of going to be behind the space like so, and you've got an interior lighting source, you can do that. And then when you render it, it may put, again, now you can see that there's a little bit of light shining in that space there. The other thing that you can do is if you want the light to be a visible source, and we are going to talk about light sources next week, torches and all that kind of stuff that you're going to add, you can go to your lights and tell your light that you want it to be a visible light. So you go to visible and you say visible. It's going to show up as an enormous orb. Okay, and so what you want to do is just take that orb size. So we're going to go to visible light again here. Hang on, right there. And just take the size of it down. You don't want it to be too small. But if you want like a candle in your windows or whatever, you can do a little light sources like that. It'll show up very nicely. Right? Any questions about doing any of that stuff? Okay, so again, if you're going to be putting any stained glass windows in your castles, this is how you do it. Bring in a texture from the outside world, put luminance on there. If you want just regular glass in your textures, then go ahead and use a pane of glass. If you want it to be a little thicker, you're more than welcome to use a cube. So you can just bring in a cube and just make it really, really thin, not so thin that it doesn't have a wall or a thickness about it. And then go ahead and drag a glass onto that and render that, and that will show up as a pane of glass. Okay, so that's how you do it.